Okay, so it looks like we have people joining us from all over the world, from Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, North America, and then pretty scattered all over the US as well. So again, welcome everyone. So it's my pleasure first to introduce Professor Alper Atamturk. Alper is the head graduate advisor for the IEOR department, and he's going to do an overview of the PhD and MS programs and answer hopefully a lot of your questions about applying and the kind of experience we are looking for in candidates. So please take it away, Alper.
Thank you very much, Keith. Hello, everyone. It's so great to see so many people joining our info webinar from all around the world. I'd like to send you all a warm welcome from the beautiful Berkeley, California. The picture you see on the right is a view of the San Francisco Bay Area, the Berkeley Marina, and the city of San Francisco from our campus. Our campus is one of the most sort of greenest campuses in the world, with a beautiful Strawberry Creek flowing through it. And the sort of temperature now is about 77 degrees in California. And we do have that beautiful blue sky that you see in the picture, which is pretty common most of the days here in sunny California. Today, I'd like to do a high-level introduction. I have less than half an hour, close to 20 minutes or so left. And I will briefly introduce the department, the research emphases, the faculty and the students, and the sort of courses that you would expect to take, the curriculum in the IEOR department. And then I think we'll have some time for questions at the end. But do feel free to enter in the chat, the Q&A chat, your questions. If we cannot get to them during the live session, we'll answer them offline as well. All right, so where we are, the Berkeley, California is really considered to be the center of innovation and entrepreneurship. If you look at some of the most big highlights of the research that has come out of the Berkeley, and going back to 1920s, vitamin E, the flu vaccine in the 40s, the Unix operating system, and the chip risk architecture, the more recently very relevant to machine learning and data science, artificial intelligence, the Spark high performance cluster computing have all come out of Berkeley. And most recently, the CRISPR technology for gene editing, which has won the Nobel Prize this year, has come out of Berkeley. I should also note that our department was founded by George Danzig, who happened to be a student himself, PhD student in the stat department at UC Berkeley. And after a short period of spending time in industry, he came back to the university and been very instrumental in starting our department and the Operations Research Center. Very quickly, as our initials indicate, IEOR, IE refers to Industrial Engineering Operations Research, OR to Operations Research. OR component, Operations Research, is concerned with the theory and algorithms in mainly in optimization, and stochastic system simulation statistics. It is the more analytical, methodological component of the department, whereas industrial engineering refers to design, analysis, and efficient operation of business and industry systems, and these systems typically involve time, human resources, capital, information, etc. Our department sort of fortunately has a very good balance between theory, computing, and applications. This is what this slide sort of tries to sort of convey. It is, if you look at the sort of faculty, it's really well balanced, and most of the faculty do sort of research across the sort of spectrum from theory to computing and applications. And students studying at Berkeley, either doing master's or PhD degrees, would find someone of their interest and that spectrum of theory versus application a sort of good combination. I just want to sort of quickly highlight here a recent addition to our department in terms of space. We have opened this new auditorium, which we call the George Danzig Auditorium, and it belongs to the IEOR department. So we have full access to it, and we use this auditorium for community building sort of events and other sort of scientific meetings, as well as for courses. Then I would like to move to recent additions to our faculty. In 2019, we hired Barna Saha, who had been an assistant professor already at University of Massachusetts Amherst. Her research area is very fast algorithms, subcubic, sublinear algorithms that are really at the heart of very, very large scale the machine learning algorithms. And this year, 2020, Rajan Udwani joined our department. Rajan has a PhD at MIT and did a postdoc at Columbia IEOR department. And his research interests are on algorithms for optimization under uncertainty and their applications in revenue management service operations. And our second hire this year is Assistant Professor Daniel Purutinsky. He received his PhD from Rutgers University, and his interests are on analytics, simulation, stochastic systems. And with that, we are, you see here in this picture, this sort of our sort of full-time faculty department currently. So we have reached 21 faculty members. And we expect we are on an aggressive faculty hiring process, and we expect to hire a few additional faculty in the coming years. There's already an open search for this year. In addition to the faculty, department has 6 staff for dedicated services, and there are close to 400 students, about 50 PhD, and we have a large Master of Engineering program, over 100 students, and close to 250 or so undergrads. In this call, we have Heather Iwata, our graduate student services officer, and Keith McAleer, who just spoke earlier, our communications director. I want to point out a few career sort of highlights. We often get this question, where do your students go to after getting their degrees? And this first slide is on a few recent placements. These are academic placements. it is quite common for our students, especially as the PhD graduates, to get academic positions in other universities, either as postdoc fellows or assistant professors or visiting professors. And we also have quite a number of students going to industry as well. And interestingly, nowadays, most of these hires are in the sort of data science, machine learning area, given the fact of sort of fast growth of this field and many sort of high-tech companies in the Bay Area. There are a few additional sort of statistics here, and I would like to sort of go over them very quickly. About 1/3 of the students, PhD graduates, go to academia, and the rest to industry, to various sort of sectors. And you have here sort of a listing of several companies, some recent placements. And a list of sort of universities, institutions around the world. On a very sort of high level, the research topics that are represented in the department are obviously optimization and stochastics on the operations research side. And more recently, we have added a number of faculty in data science, machine learning area that has become quite popular, and there's a great demand to this area. And beyond that, sort of more traditional end use areas in operations, supply chains, production systems, in risk analysis and energy systems, as well as in healthcare and sort of personalization, personalized sort of healthcare. There are a few slides that I'm going to skip over about individual faculty members, research areas. The best way probably to learn about faculty research areas is to visit their websites and maybe browse through their papers. Most faculty have their most recent research papers published on their web pages. And I'm not going to go over this list so that we have some time for questions and the curriculum component. PhD program, students in the first year typically take almost a full-time courses, do spend time on coursework. And we have 3 groups of courses in the department. One group, Group A, is in optimization, Group B in stochastic systems, and Group C is on sort of modeling and sort of applications. And we would like our students to take courses in every area. And so 9 courses are required in these groups of courses, A, B, C. And then PhD students also have to do 2 minors outside the department, and that is 6 units in each minor. That corresponds to about 2 courses in each minor, 4 courses. So altogether, I think it's about 40 units or so. We can spend more time if there are additional questions on the curriculum. In the master's program, we have a sort of similar grouping, optimization, stochastics, and modeling courses. There is more flexibility in the master's level courses, and some of the courses, a limited number of units, can be an upper division undergraduate courses for the master's program. And there are mainly 2 different plans for the master's program. Plan 1 is the thesis option, where students do a thesis. There's a thesis committee, and do research. And the second plan is a comprehensive exam version. Students who choose plan 2 can typically finish the program in 1 year, and at the end of the second semester take an oral exam based on a sort of case study. Obviously, students can take courses outside department as well in various departments depending on their research interests. I think I'm going to stop the presentation here and open up for questions.
Hi, Alper. It's Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi. Okay, so we have a series of questions here for you. Jay asks, I am a full stack engineer with 1.5 years of experience looking to pivot into some type of operations or engineering management role in a research environment, such as LBL. Would the IEOR program be a good route to pursue this?
It may very well be, depending on what type of research you are envisioning. We have very good connections with Lawrence Livermore Lab, and they obviously are interested in a lot of very difficult, challenging problems related to energy and also outside energy as well. Maybe we can have an offline conversation going into the specifics of these research topics that you have in mind.
Thanks, Alper. Jay, you can find Professor Atamturk's contact information on our website. Federico asks, do I need publications as fundamental requirements for applying to the PhD program?
No, it is not required to have publications to apply for the PhD program. Most students applying to our PhD program do not have publications, but some do. It is obviously good to have already publications. However, even if you don't have published papers, if you have research reports based on some undergraduate research that you have done, and even submitting those along with your application is useful to show that you have done research and you can communicate research. And it doesn't have to be in our field, it could be in any area. We have students applying to our program from all sorts of engineering and science fields and math and statistics and econ, and it's perfectly okay if you have done research in a different area. Just having that experience of doing research is certainly valuable if you can demonstrate that with some research report that you have written, that is valuable as well.
Thank you, Alper. Are PhD students often co-advised amongst the department if the research is interdisciplinary?
Research can be interdisciplinary, and it very much depends on the choice of the students. I have supervised the students in collaboration with other faculty, either within our department and or outside department, with faculty in computer science, electrical engineering, civil, and math. And I'm sure the situation is similar with other faculty as well. Or there have been many situations where I was the sole advisor of a student. Any combination, any possibility is okay. We would like to offer as many different opportunities as possible. Whatever is most flexible, we will do that if it serves the interest of the student.
How can I find out what professors or labs are recruiting for PhD students this year?
So our PhD program, it's a sort of good question. Let me briefly mention the sort of funding structure. We fund all our PhD admits. All PhD students coming to our department are funded 100%. The first year of funding is through a fellowship, departmental fellowship, and PhD students in the first year are not required to do any research, are not required to do become a teaching assistant for courses, so that they can concentrate on their sort of coursework to get themselves ready for research, and they can use this year, the first year, to explore different research topics, talking to different professors. So it's an exploratory year, and having that fellowship allows that flexibility. One is not tied to an individual sort of research project just at the outset of the program. We found it to be sort of counterproductive. So with that flexibility, so towards the end of the year, students have enough opportunities to meet with faculty, either through classes or just contacting them individually, and find what is the right research area that they'd like to sort of work on. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to have a research faculty assigned at the outset, but of course it is very useful to already start thinking about it at the beginning, and to the extent that you can narrow it down at the beginning, it is positive. To the extent that you can start doing research already in the first year, that is all very positive.
Many schools also have operations management programs under business schools. What would be the major difference between these and IEOR programs?
There is an operations management program. It may not be exactly called operations management in Berkeley as well, the Haas School of Business. I would say that given that IEOR department is an engineering department, the research tends to be more technical than done in a business school, and it would require significantly more sort of advanced, I would say, modeling and even sort of computation along with it. It is more of an engineering research than compared to sort of to typically done in business schools. But there's clearly some overlap. And research is never rigid, and there is obviously could be flexibility to do. I don't want to make generalizations to do very engineering-like research in a business school or vice versa.
What kind of research or academic background would be preferred? For example, what field of research experience would be expected for an undergraduate whose home institution doesn't have an IEOR department?
We don't have any expectations. So as long as students have the right technical preparation, if they're coming from an engineering program, if they're coming from a math and science, statistics, econ department that is quantitative, that is perfectly fine. We don't have any restriction. Unlike other departments, so it may not be so. For instance, maybe in a civil engineering department, they may expect their students to come from civil engineering, or mechanical engineering departments may expect their students come from a mechanical engineering department. Typically, IEOR departments, because of this sort of interdisciplinary nature, is pretty open to welcoming students from various backgrounds, as long as the students have the sort of technical sort of preparation to study the material.
And this will be our last question with Professor Atamturk, and we'll move forward with the faculty panel, where a lot of these questions can also be answered, and some of the more admission related questions I can help answer at the end of our info session in the last 15 minutes or so. So our last question for today, for you, Alper, for students deciding between operations research and stats PhD programs, what suggestions would you have?
OR versus stat. There's obviously a very strong stats department in Berkeley as well, and students cannot apply to two graduate programs at the same time, so one has to choose one or the other. We are not a stat department, although there is some research that is done with statistical sort of nature. The amount of sort of heavy statistical sort of theory would not exist as much as in a stat department, so that would be a difference. And in an OR department, research tends to be a bit more interdisciplinary, perhaps closer to the sort of end use cases, or motivated by an end use case.
Okay, great. So thank you, Professor Atamturk, and
My pleasure.
Everyone, please give some applause. I know we won't be able to hear it, but we will imagine the clapping from all around the world. Thank you. So we're going to move on to our faculty panel. In the meantime, Professor Atamturk had a great slide with the research areas for IEOR. So I'm going to launch our next poll here. So please go ahead and vote on this while we wait for our faculty panel to join on the screen, as I see they're doing now. And then I'm going to, you've been hearing from her, but I also want to introduce Heather Iwata, who is our graduate student services advisor, and she will be moderating this panel. So please go ahead and vote on the poll, and we'll close it here in about 20 seconds. Okay, I'm going to give it a few more seconds here and we'll share the poll. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the results. All right, so which research areas are you most interested in? Seems like we have a wide amount of research, with data science topping the list, and then optimization, operations, stochastics, healthcare, and security. Thank you everyone for participating. Heather, please go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Alper. Hello, everybody. My name is Heather Iwata. I'm the graduate advisor for IEOR. So I oversee PhD, MS, and MEng, and I am happy to introduce a few of our very talented faculty in our department. So if I can have each faculty member go ahead and share their name, their research interest, and perhaps a fun fact.
Okay, I am Candy Yano. I happen to have a joint appointment between the IEOR department and UC Berkeley, the Haas School of Business. And let me see, I work primarily in the area of supply chain management, but I work on quite a number of other areas as well, just for fun. And a fun fact, I think I'm probably the best bowler in the IEOR department. Nobody has challenged me on that yet.
Okay, so I guess we'll go in order of time spent at Berkeley. So I'm Professor Paul Grigas. So my research interests are broadly in the interplay between optimization and machine learning, and kind of two different aspects of that. One is algorithms for large-scale machine learning problems, and the other is sort of like the use of machine learning within an optimization task, sometimes also called end-to-end learning and optimization. And a fun fact that I'll give that I think Candy forgets is that I also am an avid bowler. And I mentioned this before, I think at a few times. So we never had a chance to actually face each other yet, but I look forward to it someday. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rajan Udwani. I'm actually a new faculty who joined Berkeley IEOR just this July. My research interests, broadly speaking, I like to think about algorithms for optimization under uncertainty. In terms of specific focus area, I've been thinking over the past few years and right now about problems in online platforms and marketplaces, specifically how to allocate products, how to price products, and so forth. Fun fact, I guess I've been missing riding on the New York subway quite a bit because I got to spend that time commuting reading. So I miss my constant reading time every day.
I see a bowling challenge in our post-COVID future. We should invite the grad students too. That would be really fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn to the Q&A questions that have been posted that perhaps some of you might be able to answer. And for everyone in attendance, please feel free to use the Q&A box to ask your questions to the faculty directly. And I'm also multitasking, so I'm looking at your questions and also moderating at the same time. So we will do our best to address all of these questions. Okay, so here's one about energy systems. What kind of projects are there in IEOR related to energy systems? Are faculty recruiting for that this year? Anyone?
I can try to provide a general response there. The faculty in the department develop a wide variety of tools to deal with mostly things like decisions about how generation should occur, choosing among different sources of generation, dispatching, pricing. So there's lots of opportunities in that space. Both Professor Oren, who's officially retired but still quite active in research, and Professor LeVay, who's an associate professor, they're both quite interested in recruiting more students.
Rajan or Paul, would either of you like to follow up on that, or?
That's a very good answer. Yeah, I think none of the three of us work in this area super intensely, but those faculty definitely do. So, yeah.
Right. My office sits right next to Professor Oren, and I hear a lot about it. But he's the expert. Okay. Another question, and I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly. I noticed that Professor Peter Abiel and some other professors in computer science have a joint faculty appointment with IEOR. Will there be opportunities to work with them if admitted?
So maybe I can take a stab at this one. So, so those faculty have a joint appointment, but primarily Peter Abiel and Michael Jordan, who also is on that list, I think they recruit their PhD students from electrical engineering and computer science. So if you wanted to work primarily with them, that is the place that you should apply. That being said, I think there's opportunity for sure to collaborate with faculty in not just those faculty who are listed on our website, but also other faculty in EECS and statistics and other departments as well. But like I said, if your mind is set on one of those faculty, then you should apply to that department. So you should think of the core IEOR faculty that Professor Atamturk presented before as sort of the main faculty that you would work with if you came to Berkeley IEOR.
I could also add a little bit to that, just based on my experience and how I imagine Berkeley also works, that typically if you are interested in certain areas that faculty in other departments also work on and you want to work with them, you can always take PhD level courses which often have research projects, and that's a very natural way to end up doing research with the faculty, getting to interact with them more, or go to their seminars. Typically all seminars are open and you interact with all the faculty and other researchers who work in, let's say, stats or machine learning seminars in ECS. So there will be lots of opportunities to do this.
And I should also add that University of California is one of the few places where, in fact, it's allowed that you can be advised officially by someone in another department. However, you know, it would be natural to expect that you would then have a co-advisor in the IEOR department.
Thank you. Next question from Ao. I've been doing research at the intersection between transportation and operations research. Does Berkeley IEOR offer students opportunities to pursue this kind of interdisciplinary studies? For example, do I have a chance to also take some civil engineering or transportation classes in addition to the curriculum for the degree?
The answer to that is definitely yes. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a very close connection with the transportation group within the civil engineering department. Professor Shen has a joint appointment with that department. And some of us over the years have been involved in projects that were primarily coming out of the civil engineering department. So lots of opportunity there.
Great, thank you. How do you usually work with and advise PhD students in your research?
I could answer this first. So, I mean, I think this personal question for each faculty. For me, I take a pretty hands-on and close approach with my students. I think that's fairly common for junior faculty, but also some, senior faculty as well. But I try to also create a kind of group, cohesive environment within my research group as well. But I would say, my approach is pretty hands-on.
I usually encourage my students to try to find their own topics. I prefer that they have thought about what it is they want to do, both in the short term and the long term. But sometimes I will suggest topics to students. So, students are different. They have different degrees of passion about different topics. And so I'm pretty flexible. I don't carry around a list in my back pocket and say, oh, you need to choose something from the list, and definitely not in that style. I'm pretty open about topics, provided they fit within what I feel technically capable to advise.
Rajan, did you want to share anything yet?
I guess I can tell you how I would advise a PhD student. I don't have a student yet. So I guess I would advise a student more or less how I was advised, which was that my advisors had a set of problems, just like I have a few problems already, that I wish there was somebody who was thinking about it, and I could think about many things at once thanks to that. So, and then over time, they actually, at the end of my first year, when I had my own problem that I started as a course project, they let me work on it. So that's the kind of approach I would take as well, that in the beginning, it's often the case that you need some encouragement to think about some specific problem. So I would give you that. And then as and when you develop your own taste and find your own set of problems to work on, I will just mentor you and try to guide you if you get stuck somewhere. So gradually, I would hope that in a period of 5 years, you end up being a master at your own problem and no more than I do.
Rajan. Is your research area related to industry? What usually motivates your research question?
For me, that's definitely the case. Although I work on some things that are more abstract, I'm definitely motivated to work on complicated problems that people in industry face. I try to model as much reality as I can. And in the course of doing this, I use a lot of optimization approaches, but I develop new methodologies for solving new problems. So it's not just applying known methods, but having a complex problem for which there's no known approach and developing new approaches, and then hopefully, in the end, hopefully helping some companies because they realize that they can use these approaches and ideas to solve the problems.
So in my research, I work on various projects, some of which are more on the theoretical side, others of which are more closely motivated by a specific application. But in general, broadly speaking, even the theory-based work, I try to stay as grounded in real life constraints and considerations as possible. So, even when thinking about the analysis of algorithms or designing new algorithms for optimization problems and so on, I try to keep my research, driven by sort of the important practical considerations in how companies and other people are actually applying these algorithms in the real world.
Yeah, I guess my taste concurs sort of with Paul, that I like to think about problems that I feel are capturing something that appears in real life problems, but then I like to abstract them out and study things from a theoretical lens and try to get basically algorithms and ideas that work for a whole class of problems. So that's what theory really tries to or hopes to do, that get a general result that can then be specialized when you go into applications. Of course, there is often a gap and things don't work out so nicely going from theory to practice. I have of late been more interested in also doing something that is closer to industry, but that's a work in progress. As such, where I stand, my primary motivation is to really capture something that's practical and then study it theoretically.
Okay, is there a research group within IEOR that focuses on the application of OR in urban systems?
I would say that if that's your primary interest, then you should consider the transportation group within the civil and environmental engineering department. There's certainly faculty who are interested in that, but I don't think there's anybody who primarily focuses on that.
Yeah, I concur.
For prospective PhD students, do you recommend them to explore a broad range of research topics or dig, quote, deep into one area during their undergraduate years?
So is this question referring to someone who's early on in their undergraduate or someone who's finishing their undergraduate? So they're asking about what's
unclear in the question.
Okay. Well, I'll say, I think the undergraduate years are definitely a time to explore. 100%. I agree with that. I think when you reach, when you enter the PhD, that's, around the time when you should start to have an idea about what you want to work on. And I think certainly you shouldn't go into a PhD being completely blind about what, you would like to write your thesis about. But on the other hand, I don't feel like you should be 100% committed to a single thesis topic or a single faculty when you join. I think one of the strengths of our department is this fellowship program that we have during the first year, which offers students the opportunity to explore around.
Anyone else want to chip in? Does that sound? I concur. Okay, last question for our faculty. Is it okay to change our area of research interest after being admitted into the program?
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Definitely, it's fine. Probably more than half of the students do. In fact, I'm a little bit suspicious of statements of purpose that are really very detailed in one area because, realistically, at the age of whatever you are, 22 years old, you get exposed to new things and you're going to change your mind. It's perfectly okay.
I fibbed. On that, I'm going to follow up real quick on your comment, Candy, with a question. What are the key things to have, in your opinion, in a statement of purpose? And then that will wrap up faculty panel.
Okay. Paul, do you want to take that one? I can answer it, but please go ahead.
Sure. So, I mean, I think, the statement of purpose serves a few different purposes. I think it's important to give, a brief introduction about yourself and the context with which you're applying to the PhD. So your background and, how your background led you to an interest in doing a PhD in IEOR. Then you should probably discuss, if you have some research experience, substantial research experience, that should definitely be discussed. Presumably that experience has led you, to apply for a PhD. So you should discuss about, what you got out of that experience. And then I also think you should, devote some space to discussing your interest in specifically in Berkeley IEOR. And if there are any faculty that you may be interested in working with, again, this is not a commitment or anything even close to that at this point, but more to show, that you are, genuinely interested in coming here and potentially doing research with several or, one or more faculty in the department.
Thanks, Paul. Excellent tips. Professors Yano, Dwani, and Gregas, thank you very much. Was there anything else anybody wanted to share before we so graciously say our thanks to you?
I just wanted to point out that, that there were some questions sort of related to this issue about our Master Science program. And we have a very selective Master Science program because we don't have a very big separate MS track. And so when students enter the graduate program here, they'll need to take some PhD level courses. And they're first year courses, they're introductory PhD courses. Nevertheless, they're more challenging than your typical Master Science courses. And so that's one of the reasons why that program is relatively small. It's a little bit more theoretically oriented than your randomly selected Master Science program at other universities. And so there's something to keep in mind. And make sure that if you're going to apply for a Master Science degree here, that you have the appropriate preparation. And I think Alper and Heather can talk a little bit more about what that preparation would need to be. So yeah, thank you for joining us. I need to sign off because I have office hours in a few minutes, but you're welcome to contact me. My email is on the website. Happy to talk to you. And thanks so much for joining us. I need to leave. Okay, bye-bye.
Yes, likewise, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye. Okay, so we will transition this over to our student panelists. And we have 2 PhD students and 1 MS student who are here with us today. Kayla, Punchang, and Helen, do you mind if you're comfortable sharing your video? If not, totally fine too.
Yeah, I think I need your permission.
1 second.
Got it. So I'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Caleb Xavier Bug. I'm a 4th year PhD student in the department in IEOR. My research advisor is Professor Anila Swani. We do some statistical learning theory and other applications. Happy to be here. Okay.
Punching, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Hanshem, currently a 4th year PhD student, and I happen to be co-advised by IO professor Max Shen and also statistics professor Aditya. And my research focus has been primarily centered around data-driven methods for decision making. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Helen. I did my undergrad at Berkeley, so now I'm in the 5-year MS program, and it's not really I don't know if it's research, but for my capstone project, not at the level of like a PhD student, but I'm working with Professor Zhang in the IEOR department on a queuing simulation model.
Thank you. As a follow-up question, where you are right now in your academics, what do you think you want to pursue post-degree? Caleb.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'll
didn't
go
know.
first.
Sure. I guess I came into the program wanting to go on the academic track and stay and be a professor. So, it's something I made clear to my advisor, during my first, year here. So he's been preparing me the entire time, to be on the academic track, which is, the kind of things you need for an application, for a successful application, to compete with other students when I graduate. I've, probably 1 to 2 more years of doing research and putting papers out and things like that. So, it's kind of your research advisor's job to give you what you need to prepare you to be, academically rigorous enough to compete, and to also hopefully help you get situated, with whatever else you need in order to be a successful student out here. So that's much.
Thanks, Caleb. And Zhang, you want to share?
Yeah. So for me, I basically came to the program with a particularly, I guess, a relatively open mind to whether being in academia or go to companies. But I do have a preference, like for companies I would like to work as a research roles in the companies. Like, so currently I would like to explore the academic tracks, but also due to this uncertainties by COVID, I'm also keeping open about the tech companies. And in the past summer, like the summer of this year, I did an internship at Amazon as a research scientist. And I think it's also pretty cool to, to apply all those OR techniques in the supply chain at the scale of Amazon. And yeah, I think either would be good. Yeah.
I'll be doing industry. I don't think I can go into academia with an MS, but like as for previous internships, I've had like data engineering internships and also tried product management. For me, I personally like data engineering more, and I'll probably end up doing that after graduation.
Thanks, Helen. There are lecturer positions, which I think you would also be fabulous at for master's. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the Q&A section because I feel as if some of these questions would be well suited for all of you. Okay, what are some undergraduate courses you would recommend taking to be considered more academically prepared for the IEOR program? Anybody who wants to jump in first, feel free to do so.
I think definitely like probability and just like definitely probability. Yeah. Have a good background in that.
Yeah, I guess just
go ahead, please.
I just in general can take some graduate classes. That would be something good, like the optimization or probability. Yeah.
I would say that, like, I know kind of like the 2 pillars of, pretty much any PhD program in this field is going to be the probability and statistics on one side, and then the mathematical optimization on the other side. So the basis of the optimization is, some of the geometric work and things like that. So those are, the 2 pillars you can see if you look up any OR program. And then the third part is, the kind of like supply chain and logistics, which is kind of more like the mathematical modeling. So those are like kind of the 3 subject areas broadly in our field. And, they teach them very rigorously, obviously, in your first year of both programs here. So those will help.
Thank you. And again, for everybody here, please feel free to enter any questions for our students in the Q&A box. For the PhD students, okay, what's your day-to-day schedule like? Excellent question.
I can start. So the first year, you are only expected to take classes. And it sounds like, you know, they have this formal fellowship program now. When I came in maybe about 4 years ago, it was about the same. You get to explore a little bit of research your first year, and you're pretty much doing classes. I was on campus, you know, this is the first year that this is a thing. So on campus, you took, you know, 3 to 4 courses your first semester, and probably your second semester too. And you know, so you had much less class time than you have in undergraduate, but of course, you know, because of the rigor, you need a lot more time outside of the class in order to digest the information and do the homeworks and things like that. But you know, you make friends very quickly. Berkeley does a very good job of putting you together with your cohort. So you have study partners and things like that. So you might study after classes, in between classes and things like that. You have, you know, pretty much the same schedule because you have like a base. So that first year is really good to kind of like meet people, but you also have a lot of classwork. And then there's the preliminary exams, which we will not talk about today. And as you progress throughout the PhD, it changes a bit, but you know, sort of the same things you always hear. It's always busy, but like you're never overwhelmed, you know, as long as you kind of find out, you know, how you need to rest. You figure out, you know, what your rest schedule is and what your work schedule is very, very important in order to get through something, you know, as long and as intense as a PhD, that you find out how to rest, and you find out how to rest early, and you know, have respectful boundaries with your advisors, those kind of things, so you can pace yourself for 5 years. There's always work to be done. There's always people pushing the field forward, and you have to keep up. So, but it's exciting.
Hansheng, do you want to share anything?
Yeah.
Or is that saying sound pretty similar?
Yeah, Sam here, basically similar. First year, pretty much a lot of courses, so basically need to spend a lot of time to build a solid foundation on like basically a very fundamental understanding of all the possible fields, so that you can make a more wise choice of whichever field you like to pursue. And then later you can just choose courses that according to your research. It's also very free to take courses from STAT, so electrical engineering or computer science department to take the courses to help with your research. And then other times pretty much free, and there were also a lot of exercise in this school gym when it was open, and just a lot of things to explore. And I guess it's just basically up to yourself to keep this balance between work and relaxing activities. Yeah.
Definitely important self-care, both mentally and physically during a PhD program. Helen, did you want to answer sort of what the day-to-day looks like for an MS student?
Yeah, I guess it would be pretty similar to like minus the research part, unless you kind of want to start on your master's project. And you can also do a master's thesis, which probably would take more time than like just the capstone project. So like in that sense, it might be pretty similar to a first year PhD, because you're often in like a lot of the same courses. Like all of the courses I'm in right now have all of the first year PhD students in them right now. So yeah, probably the same coursework, and like make sure to rest, and yeah.
Thank you. Helen, since I have you here, there's a fairly pointed question about the 5th year master program. What cluster courses did you take, and who did you ask for letters of recommendation? Obviously, you don't need to share their name, but perhaps sort of what their areas were.
Okay, yeah, so for my courses in undergrad, I feel like I almost exhausted all of the like upper div IEOR classes, and I think that really prepared me for the graduate classes. So classes like a lot of them are requirements, I think, like 162, 160, 173, 174 is a more recently offered course, 142. So I guess if you have like place to take more courses that you're interested in, like I think you should. They'll only prepare you better for the program. And then as for Rex, I really liked my stochastic processes class in undergrad. That's IOR 173. So I asked the professor for that class to write my rec. And then I also really liked my nonlinear optimization class, and I went to office hours quite a lot. So I kind of knew both of those professors well. So definitely go to office hours. That's a good way to get to know a professor and like have a rec on top of doing well in their class. Yeah.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, for all three of you, what do you look forward to the most, either on a day-to-day basis or after your degree completion? Han-Cheng, you want to start this one?
In general, look forward. I guess I just always look forward to completely signing off a research project, and if that answers the question. I mean, for the the job after graduation, I don't really put too much think on that because, as I said, I'm fine either going to pursue any research scientist type of roles in the tech companies or just try to stay in academia. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it's certainly, I agree with Han-Cheng, the thing we look forward to most on the daily is just getting research to the next stage, and kind of every single day. So that's an easy answer for that. I certainly look forward to being kind of on the other side, I guess, of the professor and PhD student relationship. So I'm looking forward to being able to do my own research and drive the own research directions. But it's, as I say, it's amazing to see your research advisor do it, right? And have this one-on-one relationship with somebody who's so amazing in their field and well-respected in their field, and kind of have that ability to just kind of learn from them one-on-one. It is an apprenticeship. So I certainly enjoy being a PhD student too and learning. But eventually, that day comes where you go off and you're trying to do the same thing. So I look forward to it.
I guess for me, on a day-to-day basis, definitely just like getting my work done. But now this semester I'm doing my MS project, so yeah, I guess like making progress in that is fulfilling. More like after graduation, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to like applying. I know it's always hard to apply like theory or whatever you learn in school to like real world industry practices, but like after my internships, I realized that like the things that companies are doing are like a pretty big gap from like what we learn like theoretically, like even at like companies that are focused on like logistics. So kind of like bringing some of that into like the real world and like seeing how you can maybe apply like what you've learned in your classes that way. I know it's hard, but that'll be like cool to see.
Thank you. Okay. What do you find to be the biggest challenge while pursuing your PhD?
For me,
you're prioritizing it.
Yeah, exactly. You saw me, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Han-Cheng, please.
Yeah, I guess for me is to identify this research direction that I really want to go after. Yeah, I guess it's different for different people. Like some people are very determined to pursue one direction, but for me, I have been a free research to fix this direction. Yeah, but that being said, I was grateful that Berkeley was very flexible in this, so that I had this grace period to pursue what I really want to do for my PhD.
Yeah. I would say something similar, which is, kind of trying to line up with your interests are in a field, especially your application interests. Like Helen was saying, trying to, the PhD is kind of in some sense strictly theoretical. So you have to kind of apply that to maybe, your future job, and you might have to make your future job as a PhD student. So, that's challenging and exciting. You have to keep up with maybe multiple fields at a time, which Anshin is referring to, and then try to put together pieces of those fields, statistics and computer science, economics, and then try to kind of, make a dissertation out of that. So it's I would say the most difficult part, because there's a lot of research to keep up with, a lot of people doing good research.
Thank you. What was the biggest reason you decided to pursue IEOR for both master's and PhD? And what makes you excited about it?
I guess for me, the reason that, so in undergrad, I did operations research, which is like the LNS version, operations research and management science, which is like the LNS version of IEOR at Berkeley. And the reason why I got into it is because I was like pretty indecisive on like what I wanted to do after graduation. And I thought that it was really nice in that like the PhD students have said that you kind of have to combine like different fields. It overlaps with like a ton of other departments. So in that way, you kind of have some sort of flexibility in like what you want to pursue or like actually study within the field. And then, yeah, like for me in undergrad, I feel like I learned like a lot of the foundational like concepts and stuff, but not really as in depth as like I think the PhD courses teach them with like how things actually work with like the proofs and everything. So.
Caleb Punching.
Yeah, I'll go. I say the thing that kind of attracted me to OR, I was operations research. I was a mathematics undergraduate. So I was, kind of looking for somewhere to apply my mathematics and not go into pure mathematics. I still wanted to go into academia then. So, I wanted to do applied mathematics, and I got exposed to operations research my junior year in undergraduate at the University of Michigan. So I just kind of knew that was the field where you had, the idea of human factors, when you're also observing the way that humans interact in terms of systems. It's not just physical systems anymore, like you would do maybe in a math department. But you have like these human systems that you're looking at, and you're doing the same thing. You're analyzing data, and you're using creative ways to analyze the data, and everything's about data science now. So it's a good time to be in OR, because you have we're kind of the drivers mathematically behind those optimization machines and things like that. So it was in order to do those applications, that was my main driver too, and put together some things like economics, and even other social sciences that you can put into mathematics through operations research.
Yeah, so I'm be similar. I was also did my undergrad in math and also did statistics. And I guess the key thing drew me to OR is because I learned a bit about optimization. I think it's cool to optimize everything. And then I guess gradually through the graduate school year, I've been start to thinking more about just optimizing under the uncertainty and more with considering more about the applications and that's and also basically this merging of data science and OR and all of this enable the data for the decision making process just make me feel very interesting. Yeah, I also always want to like apply this quantitative tools into the solving the real problems.
Thank you, everybody. And this is our last question. If we can each just do maybe like a 30-second response. Why did you choose Berkeley?
I'll go first. The first true answer was weather. It was a beautiful day when I came on the visit day too, so that helped. And the second is, of course, the program. There's the top 5 and 10 programs kind of even out. We teach the same stuff, so with that consideration, Berkeley's history and the fact that you can go to the economics department, math department, computer science department, they're all top in the world. You just don't get that everywhere. So that was the thing for me.
Yeah, similar for me as well. I also did a campus visit, and also when I was undergrad, I had spent a summer at California as well. I really liked sunsets on the West Coast, and weather, everything. And also, Berkeley is a very well-rounded institution. It's tops in many departments beyond, including IEOR, but also all the laboring departments. So that's great. So you get to have very excellent resources wherever, even if you want to explore in more directions, and then also got to talk with some PhD students while trying to make the choice, and I really enjoyed the conversation with them. So, and that's to my choice.
Yeah, so as I said, I did my undergrad here, but I really like the department, so I decided to stay another year. All the professors are really, since I think the department is smaller than other departments on campus and probably other IOR departments, the professors are all really friendly and supportive and accessible. If you want to talk to someone, you probably can. But yeah, that's why I chose to stay another year.
And we're so thankful that you chose Berkeley. Honestly, I've been on campus for almost 13 years. I've been with IEOR for just over a year, and y'all are fabulous students. So we thank you for your support and for joining us this afternoon, taking time out of your busy schedules. And thank you very, very much. If we have any other questions for the students, feel free to send me an email, hiwata@berkeley.edu, and I can forward it to Helen, Hunsheng, or Caleb. Thank you so very much. Have a great evening, okay?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, everybody.
Nice
Bye.
to see you.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, we're going to transition over to more of our general admissions Q&A, which some of it was answered throughout the presentation or the last hour and a half or so. Professor Atamturk has joined us again. Some questions might be a little bit beyond the scope of my admissions area. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop those into the Q&A. I think if I can just start, I suppose, on more of a general outlook for admissions this year, that I saw these questions pop up quite a bit. So the GRE is optional for this application cycle only due to the pandemic and the testing situations. So IUR, PhD, MS, and MN programs, the GRE is optional. So it's not required in order to be admitted. In addition, there were questions about the impact on the PhD and MS cohort sizes this upcoming fall for fall 21. We do not anticipate any changes in our average cohort sizes. If anything, we're hoping to grow it. What were some other common questions? Letters of recommendation, we do require 3. My typical general rule of thumb, and Alper, feel free to jump in here too from more on the academic side, but the admissions committee is more concerned about the substance and the quality of the letters, not just the title of the letter writer. Because if you they might have the title, but there might not be any solid examples to provide in the letter. it's probably not going to be a strong letter that will give more information for the admissions committee. It's sort of like you're meeting a brand new person, right, on paper. So we want to be able to get as much as of the 360 degrees vision of you as a person and as an applicant and as somebody who might be a part of the program.
That's correct. So I responded to one of those questions typed in. It is, I think, important to get reference letters from professors that know you the best, not necessarily the one that you got an A+. Obviously, we'd like them to say good things about you, but if the professor, if you haven't interacted much with that person and he or she may not have much to say beyond looking up the grade, which is already in the transcript. So yeah, try to think in advance who you may want to ask for letters and interact with them, and especially if you've done sort of research on a particular topic with a professor, definitely include him or her as your recommendation letter writer, or at least you can share, you can talk and share your graduate school goals. Share your statement of purpose and transcript, the application package essentially, so that letter writers have more information about you before writing the letters.
Alper, did you want to talk a little bit about the GRE being optional this year and how that might impact, if at all, the review process?
Yes, sure. We have always, not just for this year, we have always had a holistic view of the application package. We don't use cutoffs for GREs and not consider any student below this number value, numeric value. That has never been our approach to admissions. We look at it all aspects, the personal statement as well. So having had sort of overcoming the difficult situations is definitely very important. Resilience is very important for a PhD. So it is, GRE has always been just one of the sort of piece of information. And if this year, due to sort of COVID, due to challenges, we have made it optional. If you are not in a position to take it, and that is perfectly okay, your application will be complete, considered complete without it as well. But if you do have GRE exams are taken, it would be useful as to include it.
Thanks, Alper. Did we do a good job? I don't see him quite. Oh, one just popped up. Okay. Will it be possible to defer admission by one semester due to uncertainty? And if not, then do we require the GRE for the next application?
Deferring admission by one. So the deferral, if you're admitted to the program, you can request for a deferral. And it is up to the discretion of the program to accept or not accept it, depending on the specific sort of situation. But generally, it is accepted. But we cannot give a guarantee at this time that it will be accepted. And the other part of the question was, well, if not, would GRE be required next round? I cannot say at this point, but sort of all we know, I mean, hopefully the COVID situation resolves sooner than later. But all we know at this point is that for this cycle, it is not required.
And to clarify on the deferral process, to defer for one semester for the PhD program, wouldn't logistically be possible just because of how the first year of the program is structured. You would need to start in the fall because the courses offered in fall that are prerequisites for the courses in spring are only offered in the fall, not fall and spring.
So deferral would have to be for 1 year rather than 1 semester.
Correct. That's right. Hi, introducing my children in the background. Okay, is it possible that my GRE score negatively impacts my application?
It's again, so just sort of one piece of the information. My sort of generic, without knowing the specifics, my sort of generic sort of advice is that if you don't have it, you don't have to include it. If you have it, it is valuable information for us to use. But again, so we don't have specific cutoffs for numeric values. Especially, I mean, suppose if you have done very well in the GRE and you are coming from an institution perhaps that has not placed students to Berkeley, and in such cases it may be useful to have that additional information.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in our chat box here. So I think with that, Alper, did you have anything else to add before we sign off for the evening?
Yes, sure. Do not forget the application deadline is December 15th. That's very important. We cannot accept late applications, so that's a hard deadline. And if you have in between any additional sort of questions, please do not hesitate to reach us. We'll try to get back to you as fast as we can. And yeah, we look forward to your applications. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Hope that you and your loved ones are well and that you're taking care of yourselves as well. And we hope to see your application come through and hopefully meet you in person one day. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.